What do you know about water electrolyte acid-base balance?
Water follows solutes. I said pH.
pH. That's a darn important one.
Yeah.
It is darn important. Acid-base balance, managing our pH. Where's our range of pH? Where do we go? What's
Not far.
not far? What is it?
7.4.
7.35 to 7.45. 7.4 is the middle. We vary just a wee bit on both sides. Yeah. What about water? What about it? Right?
We're like 90% water or whatever.
Oh my gosh, yeah. We're actually 70% water, right?
Some high
We
percentage.
are a little on the sodium. We're salty. We're a little salty, which harkens back to, those days when the planet was just boiling cauldron. That's the way I like to think about it. And those first little molecules were getting together. Forming DNA, RNA first. What about electrolytes? What constitutes an electrolyte?
Potassium.
Yep, that's definitely electrolyte.
Sodium.
Potassium,
Ions.
sodium, chloride, ions are electrolytes. Yep. We're going to talk about sodium, potassium, and calcium. First, we'll talk about water, sodium, potassium, calcium, and then a little bit about pH and how we manage our pH, all the different systems that we depend on. Obviously, as Case has said, we are pretty much a water-based animal. We depend on water for chemical reactions, right? Hydrolysis, dehydration. We depend on water as a solvent, clearly. We depend on water for temperature regulation. We depend on water for blood pressure. We depend on water for everything, driving things, bringing things, moving things. Water is essential. What about our ion concentrations? Easy enough to think about, why do we need calcium? Well, without calcium, we got no nerve innervation, no muscle contraction. Without sodium and without potassium, we have no nerve impulses.
You have no sodium potassium pump, which drives.
No sodium potassium pump can't reestablish repolarization, so you can't depolarize. You can't depolarize your
potato.
We depend on ion concentrations for these excitable cells that we were just mentioning. We depend on our pH to be maintained by ion concentrations and water volume and all of those things. And we are definitely narrow range. Otherwise, when we get out of that narrow range, we go into metabolic acidosis or metabolic alkalosis or respiratory acidosis or respiratory alkalosis
We don't want to
by
burn.
not keeping things in balance. Yeah, so the first thing we're going to talk about is water. And this is an important thing to remember too. We have water surrounding all our cells, and we have water in our cells. And the water in our cells is dependent on what's happening around the cells, because our cells themselves cannot pull up their pants and leave. I'm leaving this body, it's not taking good care of me. Cells can't do that. So they're dependent on us to make sure that they have the available resources that they need to operate efficiently. So we are dependent on our taking in water via our digestive system. We drink water via the digestive system. We put that water into the circulatory system. The circulatory system sends it to our tissues where we have cells that hold water and cells that are bathed in water. And this movement back and forth is dependent on solute concentrations. Just like we were talking about with the kidneys, solute concentrations. Some of this fluid is going to be delivered via the lymphatic system back to the circulatory system, but much of this fluid is going to be turned back and forth between the circulatory and tissues and circulatory, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Just like remember the respiratory system, where we had gases down their concentration gradient, we will have other solutes moving back and forth into the cells, out of the cells, water moving into the cells, out of the cells based on those solute concentrations. And this is kind of interesting. We measure our water content by total body water, and we have a little bit of a difference between males and females. And that's because males tend to carry more muscle, more skeletal muscle than females do. Females tend to carry a bit more adipose tissue than males do. And muscles are more water-based than adipose tissue is, because fats versus water, right? They don't mix. So we have a little bit of a difference between males' total body water, and a female's total body water. Mostly, I want you to note that we have solids, yes, but we also differentiate between intracellular fluid and extracellular fluid. Intracellular fluid within the cells, extracellular fluid outside the cells. Look where we have most of our water. In both males and females, our intracellular fluid is in higher percent of our water content than our extracellular fluid. And yet it's the extracellular fluid that we influence. And the extracellular fluid then influences what's happening within the cells. It becomes more important as we talk about dehydration, especially, and other mechanisms by which we maintain our water content. Now, I tend to always refer to extracellular fluid as one thing, but it's important for us to remember, and you can remind me all the time, that extracellular fluid is further broken down into blood plasma and interstitial fluid. So extracellular fluid around the cells, interstitial fluid, and then the plasma of blood is considered yet another type of extracellular fluid. But again, you'll hear me, like, I kind of bounce back and forth. The interstitial fluid and the extracellular is all the same to me. Because, plasma is surrounding cells, right? They're just blood cells. So anyway, back to this. We also have lymph fluid. We've got to remember that's part of our extracellular fluid. And then I always love to remind everybody about all the other different fluids that are coursing around the body. Cerebrospinal fluid, the humors, the vitreous humor and aqueous humor, serous fluids, interbright, pleural, peritoneal, all those fluids. The inner ear fluids, perilymph and endolymph, all water-based. Bile is a water-based fluid. The fluid that our alveolar cells produce, surfactant, digestive secretions, all are water-based fluids. Granted, a total of 2% of the whole body fluid in the body, but still pretty significant in terms of their job, I think. Yeah. So we always want to remember that we have interstitial fluid and plasma in extracellular fluid, and intracellular fluid is separate from extracellular fluid. Intracellular fluid, extracellular fluid, interstitial fluid, and blood plasma are the components of extracellular fluid. And we have to maintain a balance. Remember that slide back there in the urinary system, we can produce up to 2,000 ml of urine. Well, if we are pouring out 2,000 ml of urine, that means it's 2,000 ml of a water-based substance. We have to replace that. We lose, on average, 1,200 ml, 1,500 ml, maybe 1,000 ml, depending on if you're drinking water or not, right? From the kidneys. We sweat a certain amount of fluid, water. Sweat's water-based. And it depends on the temperature, of course, but we are always sweating a little bit, moving those fluids out. And we also lose water through this process called transpiration. Literally, water molecules are emanating off of our body all the time. This is how, I know this is a little aside, you had no idea you were going to learn some biology about trees, but trees, Doug firs, hundreds of feet in the air. How do those needles get water when it's got to go against gravity? all the way up to the tip of that tree. How does it do that?
Adhesion.
Adhesion and cohesion and transpiration. So as the water molecules are leaving the tip of that tree, they're drawing water molecules up, just like we draw water molecules in our circulatory system through all these different mechanisms: adhesion, cohesion, water molecules. So we sweat, we lose water, we lose water through this transpiration, just literally emanating off our body. Every breath we send out, every exhalation has water molecules in it, expired air. And then we lose a little bit through feces. So look at the output. Approximately 2,000, 2,500 ml of water is lost on a daily basis. We have to make sure that we replace that water. Some of this is referred to as sensible water loss. We clearly understand and know when we're urinating, when we're defecating. We know when we're sweating in the summer, not necessarily this time of year, although you might notice your armpits are a little moister than other areas of the body. We didn't know about this. It's called insensible water loss, right, through respiration and through this cutaneous transpiration. But we are fully aware of sensible water loss through urination, defecation, and sweating. How are we going to replace the water? We're going to drink plenty of water, she says. Drink 1,600 ml. I have to do the calculation. 1,600 ml equals 54 ounces equals approximately three 16-ounce glasses of water a day. And what's a 16-ounce glass? It's a pint. Anyone ever go for a pint? Pint of beer? Good sized glass.
Yeah.
That's a lot of water. But that's how you get 1,600 through your body. We get some water from the foods we eat. We actually benefit from our metabolic functions by gaining a little bit of water because that's a byproduct, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Water is a byproduct of cellular respiration, metabolism. So we got to keep on maintaining our water concentration, water content, and take in plenty of water. Even when it's cold outside, we lose water because cold air is typically drier. So you're always losing water in that direction. When cold, blood is directed to your core. That makes total sense, right? Water loss, of course, is going to be dependent on surface area, physical activity, and as you see here, environmental conditions, either hot or cold. When it's really hot, of course, you're going to need to drink even more because you're going to lose more. When you are physically active, you're going to be sweating more, so you need to drink more. And even if it's cold, as this says, we tend to then recover all of that blood, keep it close to the core. You've got to keep our heart, lungs warm. And so that's why your hands get cold, your feet get cold, because all that water is heading toward the core. All the blood is heading toward the core to keep those structures warm. And we also have mechanisms by which we can increase the secretion of these natriuretic peptides. Why is that going to happen? Well, if you're driving all the blood to the core, it's filling up your heart. And when you fill up your heart, you put pressure on the atria. When you put pressure on the atria, the heart releases atrial natriuretic peptide. And what's that atrial natriuretic peptide do? Causes production of more aquaporins to get rid of that extra water. So you're going to lose water even in the cold. Yeah. Got to make sure that we keep water going so that we have enough for our metabolism, for our aerobic respiration, for our dehydration synthesis. So we get water involved in all these different processes. And when it talks about surface area, we have a great amount of surface area, babies don't. So children can lose water more quickly because they have more surface area to volume than us. We have greater volume to surface area. And that's what we're going to talk about today. That's it. See you on Wednesday in lab.